Hello, Internet! I'm Elliot the Purple-Haired Doofus, and welcome to Buddy Reads, where I read a small selection of a book and review it for you. Today we are continuing our journey through 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher. We are covering Cassette Tape 4, Side A, Cassette Tape 4, Side B, and Cassette Tape 5, Side A. I hope you've read up to that point yourself, because I do not want to ruin anything for you. Are you ready for some feels? Because we're going to dive into some real hard feels in this section. All the way up until this section, I was like, well, this girl is just mean. She kills herself and then, sends tapes to everyone to tell those people that the reason that she killed herself is them. That's kind of awful. Oh boy, do I get some feels in this section, though. Like, every single chapter. Okay, so we start off with Clay, and he's at Rosie's, and he's eating, he hasn't eaten yet. He's waiting for his mom, because his mom has the next tapes. He goes to Rosie's, and he's looking through the menu. Can't find what he wants to eat. He's looking over at the booth that Hannah and Marcus sat at, and he definitely, did way more than accost her. While he's doing that, his mom comes, and his mom has the tapes. And his mom is so kind and caring. And his mom can tell that something is wrong because he said that he was studying with someone and that someone wasn't there. And he said that he was in the bathroom and there was someone in the bathroom, but when they came out, they sat with the girl. And his mom can definitely tell that something is wrong, and he can feel it in her face, and it's just like, oh, ow. And she gives him $10 and tells him to order a shake, because they have the best shakes in the world at this restaurant. And it's just like, oh, wow. But he grabs the tapes and he puts one in to start listening. And as he starts listening, Tony comes up and he says, "Hey, Kay, is that my Walkman?" Clay's like, "Oh, yeah, no, I'm an idiot. And I could have swore that I asked you to borrow your Walkman when I was helping you fix your car." And Tony's like, yeah, sure, that's possible. I was pretty stressed. And then, well, you just enjoy your shake. And he sits down at a booth and starts eating. And Clay starts listening to the tapes again. And the first tape is about a boy named Zach. As far as I can tell, Zach is just an asshole. Hooray! And the reason that Zach is on these tapes is because of a class known as... It was like peer communications, and it's basically a class in high school that helped students communicate with each other. And it was Hannah's favorite class. And she had the best teacher who wouldn't allow any picking on people or anything like that. And she had paper bags for all of her classmates. And in these paper bags were supposed to go like special notes. And these notes are supposed to be positive and life-affirming. And they're supposed to be to other students. Like, "Hey, I like that jacket that you wore." Or, "Hey, I'm struggling with history too. Could we possibly study together?" Or, "You're going to do great on that math test. Don't worry." That sort of stuff. And at this point in Hannah's life, she is struggling very, very hard. This boy, Zach, takes all of her notes from her paper sack. Like, every single one of them. Why? It never really explains why. I guess that's part of the reason that, I don't understand. It's kind of brilliant that it doesn't explain why, because Zach is just an asshole, and you can wrap it up in that. But along with these paper sacks, the teacher has one too, and it's supposed to be filled with stuff that the students want to talk about during class. Ranging from abortion to whatever current events are going on. Students are supposed to put in topics that they can discuss seriously with each other. Hannah puts a note into the teacher's sack. And she doesn't sign it. And she says, "I would like to talk about suicide." Oh boy. You all know how I feel about suicide. But the teacher brings it up. And the students are assholes about it. All of their bickering ultimately boils down to the person put it in there for attention. The person who is talking about suicide is only doing it for attention. Whew, boy. Here's the thing about suicide. If it affects you in some way, if someone kills himself, someone that you know personally kills himself, it gives you an option. It's a terrible, horrible option that you should never take, but it gives you an option that never leaves your mind. And it's awful that it stays there. And none of these kids get that. And these kids just tear Hannah apart without even knowing that she is standing right in front of them. And then she starts talking about this pamphlet that the teacher sends around about the warning signs of suicide. And the thing was Hannah had done all of these warning signs and no one noticed. Like, one of them was a drastic change in appearance. Okay? Another one was like an unwillingness to communicate. An unwillingness to reconnect with people in their life. And I'm noticing all of these things that happened before my friend killed himself. And it's hitting me really hard. And then, like 2 or 3 days before she decides to do this thing, she's back to her old self. She's happy. She's talking with people. She's looking at people in the eye. I'm noticing that my friend bounced back the exact same way. Oh, that sucked. Reading that part really sucked. And then she traps Zach into openly stealing her notes. And that part still gets to me. But it gets worse. It gets a lot worse as we go on to the next tape. And Clay is still sitting at his stool, and he's eating this milkshake that his mom requested him to order. And Tony has finished his meal, and he gets up and he goes to his car. And he flashes his lights and turns on his engine, but he doesn't actually drive away. He turns off the lights. And Clay continues to sit at the counter and listen to the tapes. And the next one is about a boy named Ryan. And I wouldn't exactly call Ryan an asshole. I kind of understand what Ryan did and why he did it. The effects, I do not believe that the effects of what he did were his intention. In fact, I believe the effects of what he did were the exact opposite of his intention. You see, she starts going on about poetry. And I don't know, poetry is just kind of blah for me. So I'm not going to try and dive deeper into that subject. But she starts going to a poetry class at the local library. This poetry class at the local library is supposed to be like the fun of poetry, the life of poetry, love yourself again with poetry. And then she goes there, and like the first 3 or 4 classes that she goes to are like, the earth has an evil alien that is infested with parasites. And she's like, where is the love and the life? That's where she meets Ryan. And Ryan also goes to her school. And Ryan is the creator of this zine at the school called Lost and Found, where he finds lost tidbits, lost notes, lost photographs, lost stories, collects them all up, and puts them into his zine with names, phone numbers, and explicit pictures removed so that, you know, it kind of protects the innocent. At one of the poetry classes, Hannah and Ryan decide to swap notebooks. And Ryan reads through her poems, and she reads through Ryan's poems. And she says, Ryan's really good. Ryan is going to go places with his poetry. And he takes one of her poems that he finds incredibly empowering and puts it into his zine. The school reads the poem. In the poem, before he puts it in, he dissects it for her. And he could tell that this poem is a cry for help. Because this poem is all about how she is not finding acceptance in her mother or some boy. And what he reads is she needs to find acceptance in herself. And so I believe his intention was to take that poem of this girl that he knew who was struggling so hard and put it out there so that she could see other people either agreeing with her or other people understanding her or other people telling her the same thing that he's telling her right to her face, which is, you really need to accept yourself. But it backfires. It backfires horribly. And Hannah doesn't understand why Ryan did it, and Hannah hates Ryan for this. And the poem goes around, and the poem gets to the teachers, and the teachers start putting it into curriculum. Teachers start telling the classmates to dissect the poem, and none of the classmates get it. None of the classmates understand. And she feels even worse now, because she put herself out there. She put herself out there to, scream to the heavens, I am struggling, I need help. And everyone's like, stop being such a crybaby. And that sucks. Clay is listening to the tape, and he is just kind of swirling around the last remnants of a milkshake. He asks for a glass of water. The guy gets him a glass of water, and it's like almost closing time. They're like closing up shop at the restaurant. And then Clay tries to pay for his meal, and the guy behind the counter is like, I don't know what you're going through, but your money's no good here. I'm not taking your money. You're obviously going through something difficult, so just get your stuff and go. And that part really got to me. But Clay leaves the restaurant, and Tony is still waiting out in front of the restaurant, and he's like, get in the car. Clay says, okay, so he gets into the car. And Tony says, I'm the guy with the second set of tapes. And if I didn't explain this before, at the beginning of the book, in the very first tape, Hannah says, I made a second set of tapes, and you are being watched. So do exactly as they tell you, or these tapes get out. So Tony is the person that is sent to watch after all of these people. And he says, you're the 9th person I've had to follow. And he says, what part are you up to? Clay says, I've just listened to Ryan's story. And Tony goes, oh, you're next. Your story is the next story. Clay's like, oh shit. And so he's like, I want you to listen to it right now in the car. Tony doesn't even look at him. And he just starts the car and they start driving off. So Clay puts in the next tape and he starts listening. And it starts with like Hannah saying, Clay, you don't belong on this list. You don't belong with these people. It's like the Sesame Street song. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things does not belong. Clay is a thing that does not belong. She starts talking about how she's heard so much about this Clay boy and how all of it was good and how there's no possible way that there can be someone this good. She starts talking about this party that they all went to, and it's been alluded to throughout the book. And she says, the next 5 people after you were all at this party, and the only reason I was at that party was because of you. It's because I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to reach out to you. I wanted to have conversations with you. And she goes to this party. I want to say so much about that, but I just can't. I can't bring myself to do it. She goes to this party and she sneaks out of her house because her grades are falling and she's grounded. And so she sneaks out of the house to go to the party. Getting there eventually. And she meets up with Clay and it's perfect. It's everything that she wanted. And they have conversations that are deep and meaningful without being intrusive. And she's like, this is everything that I've heard about this wonderful boy. And he is actually as good as everyone says. And this can't be real. And they get to this room that's empty at the party. And they kiss. And the whole thing about this book is, like, most of the stuff is like she's been slut-shamed. She has been slut-shamed to death. And that's pretty much all of the reasons that have come before this one was I just felt like shit because everyone was spreading awful, awful rumors about my sexual life. So when she finally shares a very loving, tender moment with someone, she doesn't know how to react. She doesn't know how to feel. And when things start getting real between Clay and her, she starts thinking about all of those other assholes that fucked up her life. And she pushes him away. And Clay is just listening to this like, I should have stayed. I should have done more. I could have done more. I want to do more. I was there to talk to. Why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you say something? And I'm reading that part and I'm bawling my eyes out. Because 3 days before my friend killed himself, he visited me. And I would have talked to him. I would have done so much for him. But he didn't say anything. So I'm reading about this girl who was going through probably the same shit he did. And neither one of these fucking people will talk. And it sucks. And Clay is just staring at the tape, and he is just looking at the two spindles like he's looking into Hannah's eyes. And Tony is driving him to the house that the party was at. I'm sorry, I think I got a little too real there, but I'll probably leave it in. I was kind of hating this book up until that point. I was kind of really hating all of her reasons up until that point. And I still really do hate her reasons. It's just the idea that someone was hurting like that in my life and didn't talk to me just the same way that someone is hurting like that in this book and not talking. And that sucks. Again, I still feel like none of these reasons are reasons to kill yourself, but god damn it. Well, there is one little more, there is one more little section. Clay finishes the tape and Tony asks if he's going to be okay. And Clay says, yeah, I probably will. I don't know if I'll ever be okay. Clay might not be okay, but there's not much Tony can do about it. I would do my normal outro, but it just feels cheap right now. Remind you that I really want you to watch that fucking Pajama Radius. And talk to people. Really talk to people. And I'll see you in the finale of 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. Toodles.